What's up, everybody? It is Monday, January 30th. I am back from Los Angeles, back from California. Got a little bit of a suntan. It was a couple of nice days out there. Went to the beach, went out to Joshua Tree. I love that place. I love Joshua Tree National Monument. It is awesome. I love all the national parks. Man, I've been to many of them. I love hiking. So I had a good time. Anyway, back in New York City. Folks, I'm going to ask you something. If you like these videos, please, I'm asking you to like and subscribe. Let's help the Google algorithm, or let's put the Google algorithm to work to boost up the viewership of these videos. I know that many of you have been my core audience for a long time, and I really appreciate that. And some of you may remember when I was bitching and complaining like, I'm going to shut this thing down, it's not worth my while. But I got so much positive feedback that I decided I'm not going to shut it down. But please just do a simple thing and click the like button and click subscribe. It'll help very, very much. Anyway, today we had a pullback in the market, but if you remember, I've been saying that that's going to happen because where we are in terms of financial balances, when you look at January in its entirety, we came down from January 12th, 119 billion deficit. That was very strong. That was very positive. Remember, what is a deficit? It's a transfer to the non-government of that amount. Okay, if the government runs a deficit of 119 billion in the month of January, that means 119 billion was transferred to the non-government. What do I mean by transfer? I mean financial balances increased. The swimming pool went up by 119 billion. But then it got sucked right back down again. I think right now it's about 50 something billion. I didn't look at the numbers today, but that's about where it was on the last reading, which was Thursday. So we had a nice drain. It still ended up with a deficit for the month, so it's still a net addition to the balances. But I just felt, I've been telling you that we're still now a couple of billion behind where we were on December 14th before that quarterly tax drain hit. And then we had another tax drain on January 15th. So we still haven't even gotten back to the level of where we were on December 14th when, we were flush. We had a lot of the positive financial balances. Anyway, we'll get there. There's no problem. But I've been saying that the market was getting ahead of itself, and I told you that this was going to happen, folks. For those of you who have been following me for any length of time, and I know there's some new viewers on this channel, and I just ask you to stick with it. You're going to get it. I know a lot of people who have been with me for a long time. They started off with a 180-degree perspective of how things work, and now they really, really understand. Like, I could see by the quality of the comments that you guys have really learned and come along, and I'm proud of you. That's fantastic. So here's what's going to happen, all right? I mean, we this week on Wednesday, because we have to consider the zombie monetarists, and I made a video, I think over the week, not over the weekend, but last week. I said it's kind of funny because some of these zombie monetarists, I think the clever ones, they're starting to throw in the towel, but they don't really know why they're throwing in the towel. Their whole rationale is just the market doesn't look like it wants to go down. I specifically talked about a big shot at Goldman Sachs. He was considered like their biggest bear, and he threw in the towel last week because his analysis was, it just doesn't look like it wants to go down. I mean, this is Goldman Sachs. The guy's probably making a couple of $1 million a year easy in salary and bonus or whatever. But this is what you get when you're talking about Wall Street, when you're talking about mainstream economics, right? You're not going to get what I give you here, which is real insight and understanding. Anyway, we can trace back this market rebound all the way back to October. And if you have been following me for that length of time, you know, not only was I talking about it at that time, but I predicted how the fiscal support was going to expand, it was going to accelerate, and it was going to lift the market up. It was going to lift the economy up, and that's exactly what has been happening. And not only do I give you that big picture, okay, with dates and periods in time when I say, well, we're going to get a correction, then it's going to be an expansion. But I do it almost on a weekly basis. Like this particular pullback, I said the market got ahead of itself. Now, February should be a good month. And I'll repeat, because we're going to get a quarterly interest payment on February 15th. But that should be the peak in the fiscal flows for a while. And that's because after February 15th and that quarterly interest payment, then we go into March, we're going to get a quarterly corporate tax payment. That's going to be a big drain. Okay? Then it follows up with the dreaded April 15th when everybody's got to pay their taxes. Then we get a little reprieve in May. And by the way, in June, we're going to have another rate increase. I'm going to talk about the Fed policy in a minute. In June, we'll get another, and I think a final rate increase of 25 basis points. I might as well just say, like, this week on Wednesday, we're going to get a 25 basis point rate increase. The funny thing about this is that the monetarist zombies who have been screaming, hysterically about, the Fed is not stopping, they got to stop, they keep raising interest rates. Now it's going to be a measly 25 basis points. That's going to be the smallest rate increase since the Fed started in March of last year. And the Fed will probably signal in its statement that maybe there's going to be one more and then it's going to stop. I even saw a tweet by Larry Summers, who is the most hawkish monetarist out there, and I think he's got the ear of the Biden administration, because he was the one right at the very beginning, kind of pounding the table on the Fed's got to increase rates, they've gone too far, they've fanned inflation, and you need to drive up the unemployment rate. I love it when guys like Larry Summers, who's got nothing to worry about personally, like he's not going to be negatively affected, when he goes out there, people like that who go out there and say, hey, you people, you got to lose your job. Okay? Like, what the fuck is that? I'm sorry. Like, who the hell is he? This guy was fucking kicked out of Harvard. I'm sorry. He's an idiot. And it should make every working American fucking livid. Okay? Excuse me for my language, but when I think about that, I get so fucking pissed off. So he's even saying now that the Fed should stop right now. So what the zombies now, the monetarist zombies, on Wednesday, and I spelled out this whole scenario for you, they're going to be like, uh-oh, one of, or if not the primary bearish argument or bearish, a thesis to our whole view, or bearish argument to our whole thesis was this, non-stop rate hikes by the Fed. And now the Fed's going to stop raising rates, or they're going to do it very, very minuscule. And they lost they lost their primary argument to the bearish outlook that they hold on to, that they cling on to. So now, the only thing they're going to have, and by the way, some of them, we see this with the Goldman bear that I talked about last week. I don't know if he's that smart, but, you know, he says, well, the market doesn't look like it wants to go down. I mean, I guess that's his analytical framework. I guess that's his rationale. You know, it boggles my mind that they have these kind of people running in high level. It doesn't really boggle my mind. I take that back. That's like par for the course. It's par for the course, folks, man. All of you know more than these guys. Like, it's really something when you think about it. Really something. If you've been with me for any length of time, I could put any one of you in that position and you would be more effective and more able to communicate exactly what was going on. And if I put you at the controls, I mean, we'd have a decent, good economy. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm really kind of like going off on a tangent here. But so some of these, you know, smarter zombies, I guess you would say, I don't think they're really smart, but they're starting to throw in the towel because they think like, hey, it's not going down. I don't know. It's just not going down. So for them, that's sufficient reason. But there's going to be Johnny-come-latelys. Believe me, there's going to be a lot of Johnny-come-latelys. And so now the whole bearish argument, for those who are going to be left on with the bearish argument, it's going to be QT, quantitative tightening. So they're going to be saying, okay, so yeah, maybe the Fed's not raising interest rates anymore, but they're reducing their balance sheet and they're going to drain the money supply. Okay, we've been hearing a lot about the money supply. First ever contraction in the history of M2. They don't say anything about the fact that, you know, $2.5 trillion of deposits has moved into the Fed's reverse repo facility. We'll just conveniently ignore that, right? I mean, if you take that $2.5 trillion and you add it to reserves right now, you're still up around almost $6 trillion, which is like a record, okay? It just so happens that the banks shunted that off and money market funds stick that in the reverse repo facility because they earn a nice interest on that. And also for the banks, again, they don't want all those reserves. They want to make loans. And the more those reserves pile up on their books, those are assets which require capital. And it's like they'd much rather make loans, especially at these interest rates. Anyway, so the QT argument is going to fail too, folks. I'm just let me skip ahead here. And this is where it's going to get really, really interesting because I've laid out this scenario. And it's going to come around June. And the reason it's going to come around June is because that's when Treasury is going to run out of its ability to employ these, what they call extraordinary measures. Basically what Janet Yellen is doing is she's taking money from government employee pension funds and using that to make payments because we're under the debt ceiling, which they've done that in the past, okay? They call that extraordinary measures. If the debt ceiling is not raised by June, then we go into a situation which I've explained in the past, which is basically an austerity type of operation by the government where the government can only spend based on the amount of taxes it takes in, and as it cuts spending to meet the available tax deposits, now those spending cuts will contract the economy, which means less tax deposits, which means more spending cuts, which means more tax less tax deposits, and it's a vicious spiral down. That's going to be serious. That's a real thing. Now, if and when that happens, and we don't know because that's June and that's politics and we don't know what's going to happen, and I would still advise having a bullish position until then. But if that happens, if we go full austerity, you know, all you people who call me like the perma bull, which is dumb to call me that because I've explained, like, if the government's spending $7 trillion a year and net spending, you know, $2 trillion or $1.5 trillion deficit spending, adding that much, like unprecedented amounts to the financial balances of the economy, there's no way you're going to talk me into being bearish. But when that situation reverses, I'll be the first one out there shorting the hell out of the market. Okay? Just saying that. So it's going to be a very interesting, you know, up until June. Maybe it won't happen. I mean, maybe politically they'll arrive at something. I don't know. If I was going to guess, and I would have to take historical, you know, precedent into account, I would think they are going to come up with an agreement. But you never know. Like I said, it's a different Congress. We have a House, a Speaker now, is Kevin McCarthy, who basically had to give away massive concessions to a virulent, extremist, hard money caucus in the House of Representatives run by this guy, Chip Roy from Texas. He's a representative from Texas. I call him the most dangerous man in America right now, folks. At least economically. We got a lot of dangerous people pushing World War III and all this other shit. But this guy economically is the most dangerous man in America. And he may make this happen. He's a super extremist ideologue when it comes to government spending. He extracted massive concessions from, I mean, Kevin McCarthy wanted to be Speaker, you know, in the worst possible way. You know, like when I say in the worst possible way, Kevin McCarthy wanted to be Speaker without any consideration to the consequences to this country, basically, and the economy. Like, it's disgusting. It's a sheer desire for power, and in McCarthy's case, very limited power. To think, like, I don't know, what kind of negotiation is that? Like, I'll give you one little anecdote or one little thing about myself, like, before I sign off here. I used to love, or I still love, going car shopping. Like, most people hate going car shopping. It is like the worst experience in the world for them, maybe only comparable to public speaking, which I happen to like public speaking too. But like, this is one of the reasons why this companies like Carvana came into existence, because it's like a car vending machine. You don't have to deal with anybody. You don't have to deal with a salesman. I loved to go to dealerships and haggle. And like, if I didn't get my price, I'm totally cool to walk out. Like, it may be the car I really wanted, like, for a long time. And I know the values because I do my research, and I walk in there and I lowball it. And the dealer would be, the salesman would be like, no way, I can't even come close on that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, and, you know, walk out. Maybe I send him an email. You don't know how many cars I bought from dealers at wholesale because I knew how to negotiate. I made money on all my cars. Who can do that? But like, not everybody's like that. So Kevin McCarthy gave away everything. It would be like him walking into a car dealership, and the guy says, the car you want's $35,000, and McCarthy says, I'll pay you $50,000. And he didn't have the money. And that's exactly what happened. So, anyway. That's it for today, folks. And don't forget, please, I'm asking you, click the like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.